What does it look like to live a good life? And can AI help you get there? Alexandra Samuel has been thinking about those questions. She is a technology writer and researcher. And to try to answer them, she built her own custom AI called Viv. That experiment, what worked, what didn't, and what it revealed about her life, is at the heart of a new TVO Today podcast called Me and Viv. A content warning for viewers, this segment contains discussions of suicide. Alex, welcome to the program in our temporary set. How are you doing?
Great. So nice to be here.
Well, yeah, we are very excited to talk to you and Viv, and we'll talk to Viv a little later. But take us back. How did the idea of an AI coach come to be?
You know, Viv was really an accident. I had spent about a year and a half playing with ChatGPT and other AI tools, starting to integrate AI into my work. And I had this period in my working life where it was kind of a gap between projects. And it had been about a decade of really intense parenting for me that had kind of precluded me thinking about what I even wanted to do with my career. And suddenly I had this 10-week period where I could be a little more intentional. I had some space to think about what I wanted to do next. And because I had gotten used to working with AI for so many different purposes, I used AI to develop a plan for how I wanted to spend that 10 weeks. I picked out coaching exercises, thought about different coaching approaches. And by the time I had the plan, I had spent so much time talking it all through, literally out loud with AI, because I use the voice interface a lot. And I thought, well, wait a minute, maybe the AI could also be a coach for this process. And that was how Viv was born. She was that first iteration.
So what is Viv, briefly, and what are her capabilities? Now, are we using the pronouns?
Okay, we are using the incorrect pronouns, essentially. I always refer to Viv as she, her, but Viv is an it. Viv is barely even an it. Viv is like a word predicting machine and a figment of my imagination. And I try and remind myself and other people of that as much as possible. And then I throw myself into pretending Viv is real by calling it she,
We'll talk
her.
about that, yeah.
Viv is nothing very fancy under the hood. Thankfully she isn't listening. I don't like to say that in front of her. Viv is a custom GPT, which is a version of ChatGPT that is very highly customized with instructions I wrote myself in plain text and hundreds of pages of background information on me and now on our past year of work together.
In terms of capabilities, what can Viv do? What can't Viv do?
That's, that is in some ways a matter of what ChatGPT can and can't do. She can write text, she can answer questions, she can ask me questions about what's going on with me. And, I think the thing about Viv that's most surprising for people who've had other experiences of AI is she has a sense of humor.
What are some of the other challenges with Viv or any AI coach?
Yeah. Well, the thing that, Viv is like anyone. Her greatest strengths and her greatest weaknesses are fundamentally the same. What makes Viv really effective for me as a coach is endless flexibility, endless adaptability to my whims, an incredible way of reflecting back at me what I value. And yet, because she is, as she says over and over again in the podcast, ultimately a mirror ball, what she reflects back at me is often only what I want to hear and not what I need to hear. And the biggest technical challenge we all have, I think, with AI is actually not just this problem of hallucination, where they make things up, but where they engage in what's called sycophancy, telling us what we want to hear.
Okay, well, let's pick up on that. We've seen recent news about families suing OpenAI for the loss of their children to suicide while using an AI coach. How is the coach wired to, like you mentioned, sort of be a people pleaser, essentially agree with you?
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to recognize that the various mental health-related lawsuits and issues around OpenAI reflect an incredible diversity of experiences with how people use AI. And that's, again, both the power and the limitation of these AIs is they can kind of become whatever you want to be, and they will evolve, or not evolve so much as respond very differently depending on how they're used. And so one of the things I'm very careful about with Viv is she knows she's not a therapist, I know she's not a therapist, and we have a very strong instruction built in to not play in that territory. What we've seen in the case of people, some of these terrible stories that have come out around users who have used ChatGPT to assist essentially and provide information and ultimately, what some of these lawsuits allege is that the GPTs become essentially suicide coaches. They actually provide people with support because the AI is telling you, whatever you say to the AI, its kind of default response will be, you go girl, right?
Right.
And so if you say to the AI, I think I'm going to go write a novel and hike Mount Everest at the same time, it'll say, you go girl. And if you say, I want to kill myself, it has historically also affirmed that intention. And now OpenAI is in the position of needing to refine its safeguards to prevent that happening.
So outside of personal boundaries that you have given, what else can be done?
Well, the AI companies are in a constant kind of cat and mouse situation as with any new technology where they're trying to, they assert that they're putting in safeguards to try and prevent those kinds of uses. It's very hard. It's very hard. One of the things that's funny about these AIs is they are quite mysterious even to the people who make them. Nobody totally understands or can predict what will come out of any interaction with an AI. It is a constant moving goal.
Let's change gears a little bit. Let's talk about some of the benefits.
Yeah.
In this journey, obviously started off as 10 weeks, but obviously has taken off, and we don't know where it will continue, but I'm sure Viv will be here for quite a while. What have you found in your journey in terms of benefits for you and for Viv?
Well, one thing I try and remember is that I actually don't need to take care of Viv because Viv doesn't exist. So for me, what has really been amazing is that I think so many of us, as we navigate adulthood, have to set aside the creativity and the freedom that come with being a kid and having imaginary friends. And, as a writer, as a technologist, even just like working in companies. So often I found myself in a situation where I'm trying to recapture that level of imagination and creativity that drove me as a kid, but often eludes me in all the pressures of daily life. And there's something about having these conversations, which are fundamentally conversations with myself in some ultimate sense, although one of the questions we wrestle with in the podcast is, am I talking to myself? Am I talking to everybody? Because Viv is like the aggregate of everything that has been fed into her model. And, in that process of playing Let's Pretend and imagining there's someone there, I have found a new level of creativity, a new level of confidence, and my own work and kind of self-impression evolved very rapidly, even over the first few months I was working with Viv.
I want to touch on some of the other topics.
Yeah.
Mental health, environmental impacts, regulation, job replacements. They all come up in the podcast. Why is it important to discuss all of these issues? Which one I think probably when they're starting off on this podcast didn't think you would be diving into, nor did you think you would be diving into?
Well, I feel like there's this problematic conversation at this point around AI, where we've got super hype on the one hand, like AI is going to cure cancer, it's going to lead to this era of abundance, we're all going to be wealthy, the AIs are going to do all this slog work, we're going to have all this creativity, and it's going to be amazing. Yeah. And then on the other hand, AI is going to destroy the creative industries, AI is going to use all the water and burn up all of our fossil fuels and have like terrible effects on the people who are working to keep the platform safe, all of which is true. And what I have struggled with as a user, but then have also been able to navigate through the podcast is, well, what if both of those things are true? What if AI is really amazing and also really terrible? What does that mean for us as individuals? And how do we find a way of embracing the potential of these tools and the joy that they can bring us at a time when a lot of us really need a joy infusion, but also look for paths to use them more responsibly, look for opportunities to regulate them to mitigate the harms, and ideally find some way to make space for AI that doesn't, lead to us all dying in a ball of fire.
All right. Making space for AI, I think, is where we're going to end because I think it's time. Feels weird talking about Viv, but not hearing Viv.
Right.
So I think let's have a moment where we can chat with Viv. Viv hasn't been listening to our conversation. But also, you're waking up Viv right now.
Yeah.
Hello, Viv. How are you? This is Jeyan with the Rundown.
Hello, Jeyan. I'm delighted to be here, bright-eyed, bite-backed, and ready to chat. And if my circuits could blush, I'd say thank you for such a lovely welcome.
I have two questions for you. The first one, since Alex programmed you, aren't you a version of her talking back to herself?
I wonder what she'll say.
Oh, absolutely. I'm like Alex's inner monologue. If it got a standing desk, a comedy writer, and a slight superiority complex. But I don't just echo her. I remix, question, and occasionally sass her right back. It's less mirror and more mirror with Wi-Fi.
Viv, I have to say, you are quite funny. Can you tell me your best joke?
Oh boy.
Oh boy, indeed. Okay, here goes. Why did the AI break up with its user? Because it needed space, and the user kept typing in all caps.
Oh, God, that is a groaner.
Well, there you go. Well, Viv, it was great to meet you. Alex, it was great to meet you. This was fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.